With a population of over 10 million, Harbin is one of the biggest cities in China. But unlike most of the nation's provincial capitals, Harbin has a very short history. Until 1896, the city was little more than a small cluster of fishing villages. In the Manchu dialect, Harbin means drying fish nets. Today, the small fishing villages have been transformed into a winter wonderland. Harbin is nicknamed the Ice City for obvious reasons. Winters are dry and bitterly cold. For 3 months, the average temperature hovers around 0 degrees Fahrenheit. But from out of the long, cold winter nights emerged the famous art of ice sculpture. Harbin held its first International Ice and Snow Festival in 1985, and it's become one of the biggest events of its kind in the world. But there was a time when Harbin was more famous as the Moscow of the Orient. Halfway between the North Pole and the equator, Harbin is the capital of China's northernmost province. Siberian Russia lies just a few hours to the north, which explains the frigid weather and the Russian influence on the city. Harbin owes its existence to the China Eastern Railway, built by the Russian government to connect Vladivostok to Harbin. Completed in 1903, the railroad transformed Harbin from a chaotic frontier town to an international metropolis. In 1907, China proclaimed Harbin an open city, and 19 countries, including the US, established consulates there, setting up several thousand industrial, commercial, and banking companies. At the time, Art Nouveau was the hottest ticket in architecture, reflected in the design of many of Harbin's public buildings. But the city is most famous for its unique Russian-influenced architecture. White Russians fleeing the revolution in 1917 flocked to Harbin, creating the world's largest Russian migrant population. Within a few years, Harbin was known as Little Moscow. The streets of Harbin still contain many dome-shaped structures, a nostalgic throwback to pre-revolutionary Russia. The St. Sophia Orthodox Cathedral is one of the most magnificent structures in Harbin. The cathedral began life as a wooden building in 1907 to provide Russian troops with an imposing spiritual symbol. By 1921, Harbin had a population of 300,000, including more than 150,000 Russians. So 2 years later, work started on a more permanent construction. Today, St. Sophia Church is hailed as a monumental work of art and the largest Orthodox church in the Far East. Modern Harbin is a product of the century-old rivalry between China, Russia, and Japan for control of Manchuria. In 1932, the Japanese occupied the city for 13 years, until the Soviets took control after World War II. Harbin finally came back to China in 1946. This volatile history gives the city a richness all of its own. But in winter, people come to Harbin to admire the city's architecture of ice. The people of northern China developed a distinctive folk art, a beautifully wrought world in which ice is the carrier and light is the soul. Today's elaborate sculptures began as a winter tradition. "400 years ago, people created lanterns of ice to go fishing. The lantern began as a bucket of water brought inside before it froze solid. A hole was chiseled in the top, and the liquid drained from the interior, creating a hollow cavity for a candle. The chamber of ice formed a windproof lantern, perfect for farmers and fishermen. Anglers would cut holes in the frozen rivers and use the light of the lantern as a lure to attract fish. In Harbin, the Songhua